So let's talk about AI. Is this boom we're seeing something totally new, or is it just history repeating itself? That's the big question, right? Today, we're diving into a really smart piece by Henry Blodgett, who looks back at the dot-com bubble for some clues about what's happening right now.
Yeah, that old saying, history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. And boy, does it rhyme when you look at the AI gold rush today. The parallels to other huge tech revolutions are, well, they're pretty startling. It feels like we've seen this movie before, you know? And if we pay attention, the past might just give us a roadmap for what's coming.
And that's really the core of our story today, that feeling of déjà vu. We're going to use the last massive tech bubble, the internet boom and bust, as our guide to figure out what we might be able to expect from this AI revolution. So Blodgett lays out 3 big lessons from back then, and honestly, they kind of contradict each other. Lesson 1, most of these new AI companies are probably going to fail. Lesson 2, most of the money poured into them, yeah, it's going to be lost. But, and this is the real kicker, lesson 3, sitting this whole thing out might be just as risky as going all in. So, what do? Let's break that down. You see, it turns out there's this predictable pattern to massive new technologies. It doesn't matter if you're talking about railroads, cars, or the internet. They all seem to follow this same roller coaster ride. A massive, exciting boom, followed by a really painful bust.
And this cycle, it usually happens in 4 stages. First, you get the big idea, the huge opportunity, and boom, money, smart people, everyone rushes in. Step 2, things get a little crazy. The competition gets way ahead of what customers actually want or need. Step 3, pop. The bubble bursts, experiments fail, money dries up, but then, and this is the important part, step 4. After all the wreckage is cleared away, a real solid industry rises from the ashes. And it often ends up being even bigger and more world-changing than anyone in the hype phase ever dreamed of.
So you might be thinking, okay, if we know this is gonna happen, why can't we just not do the bust part, right? It's a totally fair question. Why do we have to go through all that pain and loss every single time? Can't we just get the boom and then skip straight to the world-changing industry at the end?
Well, it really comes down to a few basic truths. For one, you just have no idea what's actually gonna work until you try a ton of stuff that doesn't. It's all just one giant experiment. Then there's good old FOMO, the fear of missing out. That feeling is so powerful, it makes people take huge risks. And maybe the biggest reason of all, technology changes, but people, we kind of don't. Our human behavior, our psychology, stays pretty much the same. Okay, so let's really dig into those first 2 lessons because they are 2 hard truths from the internet bubble that frankly everyone in AI today, whether you're an investor, a founder, or just working at one of these companies, really needs to grapple with. So a great way to picture what's happening is to think of the entire AI startup world as one giant open-air laboratory. You know, back in the day, innovation happened in secret at places like Bell Labs or Xerox PARC. But now, it's all happening out in the open. It's funded by venture capitalists, and you've got thousands upon thousands of startups all racing to invent the future, all at the same time.
And what's the one thing we know about labs? Most experiments fail. It's just baked into the process of discovery. And it's no different here, which leads us to lesson number 1. Most of today's AI companies are going to fail. Yeah, even the ones that look like they're on top of the world right now. History tells us most of them just won't be around in the long run. And look, this isn't just theory for Blodgett. He was there. He was a stock analyst right in the middle of the dot-com bubble. And he says that when that thing burst, it wasn't just the bad companies that went under, it was a bloodbath. Even the best of the best, the ones everyone thought were sure things, they got absolutely crushed. So if you accept that most companies are going to fail, well, that leads you directly to the second hard truth. All that money, all those billions and billions being poured into AI right now, most of it is just going to disappear. It's going to be a total loss. I mean, just think about the story of Yahoo. This is such a perfect example. From 95 to 2000, for 5 whole years, Yahoo was search. They were untouchable. They left every single competitor in the dust. You would have been crazy to bet against them. And then, this tiny little company called Google shows up with a totally different idea and just nukes them from orbit. It's the ultimate proof that being the early leader guarantees you absolutely nothing.
Okay, so most companies fail, most money gets lost. The logical conclusion is to just stay away, right? Keep your money in your pocket, sit on the sidelines, and wait for the storm to pass. Well, here's where it gets really tricky. This is the ultimate paradox of a tech boom.
Because here's the thing, These booms can go on for a long, long time. And while you're sitting there being safe, your competitors are out there racing ahead, adopting the new tech, building new things. The risk of doing nothing can be just as deadly, maybe even more so, than the risk of betting on the wrong horse. Standing still can be a death sentence.
The graveyard of the internet era is filled with these stories. You had big retailers like Barnes & Noble who just kind of laughed at e-commerce, and then Amazon ate their lunch and never looked back. You had CEOs who went on record calling the internet a fad, and, well, they were soon looking for new jobs. Even the cautious investors, the ones who said everything's too expensive back in 1995, they missed out on 5 years of massive gains before the music stopped. All right, so that's the history lesson. Now, let's bring it to today. With all that in mind, what does it tell us about where we are right now with AI? Just look at this number, $400 billion. That's not the total investment. That's what's expected to be invested in AI infrastructure in this year alone. The scale is just mind-boggling. It makes the early internet boom look tiny by comparison. The bets being placed right now are just massive. But it's not a perfect one-to-one comparison. There are some really key differences this time around. Back in the dot-com days, a lot of the money was debt. It was regular folks throwing their savings into the market. Today, a huge chunk of the cash is coming from the big tech giants themselves. It's their profits being reinvested. So what that might mean is, if there is a bust, it might not take the whole economy down with it. It could be more like some very expensive, very embarrassing write-offs for a handful of huge companies. And all of this leads to the one question that everyone is asking, the multi-trillion-dollar question, really. Where are we on the timeline? Is it 1996 and we're just at the beginning of a long, amazing party? Or is it 1999 and we're about to hear the clock strike midnight? The honest answer, no one has a clue. And that's the point. That complete uncertainty is what makes this moment so electrifying and so terrifying. Every single decision, whether you're a CEO, an investor, or just deciding where to work, is a high-stakes gamble. So, let's wrap this up. What are the key takeaways here? First, remember the pattern: boom, bust, and then the real revolution. Second, don't be shocked by failure. It's a feature of this cycle, not a bug. Third, timing is everything, and nobody knows what time it is. The risk of doing nothing can be just as great as doing the wrong thing. And that leaves us with a final thought. The question isn't if AI is going to change the world, it is. The real pressing question is, where are we in the hype cycle?